I want to start with happened a few weeks ago. Historic cuts Norway announced alongside what we saw OPEC Plus do to stabilize the market. We've seen some of the Gulf exporters cut even deeper, like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, and now the group is talking about even extending those cuts further. Is this something you think Norway would do? Would Norway cut even deeper on the cuts they've already announced?
Well, Norway has gone through with production cuts at certain times before. Each single time it has been because of an extraordinary situation going on globally. I think the last time we cut production was in 2002 following the September 11 attacks. And each time we've done so, it's been based on an independent decision in regard to our own resource management and the outlook for the Norwegian economy. So the cuts that we made this time was because of the extraordinary situation we're seeing because of the pandemic. It's a contribution to try to stabilize the market a little bit quicker than what would have happened if we did not go through with cuts, but it was a prerequisite that the bigger producers did the same. So our cuts came after the OPEC announcements. We are making a substantial cut now. When we come to December at the end of this year, we will be producing 300,000 barrels less per day than what was initially planned. So at the moment, I feel this is a good contribution. I think we're seeing already clear signs in the market that it's moving towards stabilization a little bit quicker than the worst fears. So we will end regulation by the end of the year, but at this time, this is the cuts that we are ready to go through with.
So at the moment, there's no talk of extending into 2021.
No, we're not discussing that politically or in the department ministries at this time. We're right now the situation is that we will see these cuts through to the end of the year, but then again, we can end the regulation quicker if we see that's possible. But on the onset, the plan is to keep these production cuts in place until the end of the year.
You said you see some signs of stabilization, and we are seeing that with the price of oil as well. But we still have more than 1 billion barrels in terms of inventories. How long do you think we will see like proper supply and demand stabilization in the market?
Well, I think it's difficult to say, and I'm sure there are oil and gas market analysts that can probably answer that question a lot better than me. But I think it's a good sign that we're now seeing the oil price going a little bit up. I think some of the worst fears that we had just a month ago about seeing storage globally go to max capacity is maybe something we're not as worried about right now. But like you point out, there is still a huge surplus. The demand is not back to where it was before. But I think as more countries eventually start opening a little bit more up and we're seeing some of the pandemic receding in some countries across the world, the hope is, of course, that people will start flying again, driving their cars. The economy will bounce back, even though we know it's going to take a while. And this will, of course, also affect the demand side in the oil market picture.
I know Oslo is starting to open up, or Norway in general. Are you seeing more demand pickup within Norway?
Well, we are seeing like one really example that you can see just by moving around is that people are starting to fly again. I think a lot of things have changed because of this pandemic. I think just having digital meetings on on webcams, etc., is something that we're probably going to keep doing more, even though things come back to normal. So I think it's too early to say now exactly how this will play out, but we are seeing more people starting to move around. But we still have a really high focus on keeping the virus at bay. So we still have many measures in place to ensure that we have good hygiene, that we don't sit too close together, to make sure it doesn't shoot back up, because it is, of course, a major health issue that we take very seriously.
Mm. During the previous downturn in 2014, OPEC had invited Norway to come to the meeting. Have they done that this time around? Is this something that you'd be interested in doing?
Well, we were invited as an observer on the meeting that they had before they came to the conclusion of cutting production. We're not part of this cooperation. We're not a part of OPEC. I did not myself attend, but we were represented on our officials here in the ministry. I mean, we're not part of that group. Any production cuts that we make will be based on independent decisions, based on what is good for our economy and our resource management.
Have they invited you? I'm curious to the June meeting.
Not that I know, no.